everybody. Welcome to the Raw Magic podcast with Skye and Marabella. We are both raw vegans and we share the magic of raw foods. Hey, Marabella.
Hey, Skye. Hi, everybody. How are you?
I'm so good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm so good. I'm so excited to talk about this topic. Oh my goodness. Um, and I know Skye, you have oracle cards too. Skye and everyone, have you seen The Sacred Rebels by the same author that you have? The Sacred.
No, I haven't. I've got a few going on here. I know you've got many, don't you?
I have several. This is so accurate. Ooh. Yeah, I have another deck by her too, but I didn't bring it out. But I really like Alana Fairchild.
Alana Fairchild.
Yeah,
Yes. So most of
this,
mine are by her.
yes,
This
and
is
they're
probably
so
my
accurate. Yeah.
yes. So I will and it's so interesting. I had the fairy cards, the butterfly fairy cards. I
Uh-huh.
may be able to still find them at mum's when I was sick. Like they were
Oh,
really sacred. But I love Alana Fairchild. Her artwork and
yes.
her deck, they're incredible, right?
So amazing. And this Sacred Rebels, whenever I do a reading from this deck, it's so accurate. She also does she
Really?
has a deck called Isis. They're all so accurate. It's so incredible. But
You know, I
I
was just
wanted
gonna
to
say, out of all
okay.
mine, this one for me has been like and I think it's as
Oh,
well because it's called Medicine Heart. And I think because most of my story has been medicine, and now I can do it through light work, that when I used to pull these cards, I used to pull them on a Sunday night with Heidi. We do a raw evening by the water, by the beach, start our week. And every
oh,
time I pulled a card and I worked on it during the week, it was so accurate. Like it was like the universe saying, this is the part of yourself when it comes to like medical healing that you need to go into. And so,
yes.
yeah, that's probably
Oh,
my
I
one.
love
Like,
that. Is that also by Alana Fairchild?
yes, yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
I want to get that one too. That would be so amazing. That's one of the ways that you can use the oracle cards is just by pulling one. Yes. Oh, and the butterflies that I use, I will pull a card and then put it on Instagram or TikTok, and she's Alana Fairchild too. And I'll just shuffle through and ask what everyone needs to know and pull it out and then do a reading, just a really quick reading. But that's one of the ways that you can use the oracle cards. And I wanted to tell everyone the difference between, like, say, an oracle card and the tarot deck. The tarot deck, these are so pretty too. My friend Vanessa gave these to me, but they're like, they have pictures and symbols on them. And these are more of a kind of like structured, fixed system. They have 22 major arcana cards in the tarot deck, which are about life themes. And then they
Yep.
have 56 minor, which are just kind of like minor themes. And so I don't play with or use the tarot that often. I have a really good friend that loves tarot. Her name's Vanessa, and she gave me this deck, and I'll do the tarot with her.
Oh,
But I always use like the oracle cards, and there's tons to choose from. There's like fairies, butterflies, chakras, anything. And they're more, to me, that's just my opinion, they're more intuitive. You can like draw a card. The way that I like to do it is to say, you draw a card and you kind of look at the pictures and you see where maybe you are in the card. Like if you were in this picture, this one's kind of hard to see, but you would say, who are you in the card? What do you represent? And then what does that have to do with your life right now? And you can kind of give yourself a reading that way. And it's just fun. It helps you to tap into your intuition
yeah.
without all the structure. So I really like that.
Yeah. So when I was younger, I got given a deck of tarot cards, but also I got one in a magazine. I think it was like Dolly or
Oh,
Girlfriend. this deck, and I think it was like there's different types of arcana or houses in the tarot. Is that correct?
Right. Yeah, there's different houses, different suits or houses, or yeah.
So, but there's lower arcana and higher. Is that right?
Major and yeah, major
Major.
arcana
Okay.
and minor
So
arcana. Yes.
I got like I didn't get the major. I think I got, there's a smaller amount.
Yeah, so the major is the smaller amount, and those are like
Yeah.
life lessons or life issues. Yeah. And then the
So
minor. Mhm.
oh, sorry, go on.
Yeah, and then the minor are like the kind of more everyday things. And the major are like they are like the life major lessons.
So that deck that came with the magazine was kind of structured for how my age was. You know how tarot cards can look different? Like it was all like the priestess and the I think the Joker was in there.
The
Anyway,
empress,
I
the king, the
yeah, all
queen.
of that. I
Mhm.
could literally think of things, and if I thought of the same thing, the correct card would continue to come out. It was like I was so in sync with
Wow.
that. It was unbelievable. I could read, and I never studied it. It was just an intuitive thing. I think I've always been like an empath and very intuitive. And I used to read for
Yes.
my friend, and I'd always prefer that deck. It was so accurate. I could think of a person, and every time I thought of them, the exact card which represent them would come out. And then I wasn't really so drawn to that. What's the like really common brand of tarot
Rider
cards?
Waite. I think you're
That's
thinking of
it.
the Rider Waite. Yes.
Someone gifted me that. Hey, Helen. Someone
Hi,
gifted me
Helen.
that as well. But I think because I went through so much darkness, I ended up throwing out the uh, the ones that was so accurate. Like I felt like I was dancing with darkness,
Okay.
and where like I felt like sometime I feel like when I tap into tarot, it makes it things almost set as they are. Whereas I find the oracle cards helps you explore different facets of yourself in different realms. This is what it felt like for me. I'm in much
Yes.
brighter, lighter energy now. So, but I have no calling to grab a tarot deck.
Hmm.
And I had the fairy cards as well. And I was like you, is I could see the full story, but in tarot cards, I could see it, but it was like so set that it was
Yes.
almost, I was almost losing control of my life if I was reading them, whereas these help me unfold. And now when I do light work is, gosh, these help me, especially like, I feel like my shamanic work, like that medicine work that you can do in yourself, like things that
Yes.
are locked up. This deck is amazing. But it's
Yes.
really interesting evolution. Like I guess things can be light or dark, right? So
Hmm.
when I was so sick, I was like, I'm not in a space where I can have tarot around me. Whereas I probably could now, I just choose not to. So it's interesting
Right.
you prefer the oracle as well.
Yeah. So I prefer the Oracle as well. And I don't like to look at them as like we're reading the future because I always feel like we get to
True.
choose our future. And so
Yeah.
by pulling a card, it can help us in the moment and it can help us to achieve what we want from the future. I mean, I think there is like any numbers of ways that we can go. But I do think some things are set, but for the most part we get to choose. And so when we pull a card, it's just to help us out in the moment. It reads what we have available right now to help us instead of predictions, making a prediction. I don't like to wake up in the
Yeah.
morning and say, oh, my day is going to be like this. I like to wake up in the morning and I want my day to be like this. What do I have to do? How can I achieve my goal? Not like what's going to happen to me, but how can I be in charge of my world? How can I shift to make it happen or that type of thing? Because sometimes if we see the negative that's coming, we perceive it as negative when I think everything happens to us for a reason and that we can shift. And if we can always see the blessing in it. But this is interesting. This was my first deck of cards, and it's called Healing with the Fairies.
Oh, I think that was my first book. Like not
Was it
besides the
really?
tarot. Yeah, so it
Yeah.
was my first. I hope I can find them.
Oh, I hope so. Because then you and I maybe we can bring them into our raw magic and just use them for part of our
Also,
what we
I don't
do.
know if it's like this for you, but the more you use a card and familiarize with it, they become more part of you. Do you notice
Yes.
that? Like when you get a fresh
Yes.
deck, you're not connected to them. You're like discovering, but the longer you hold cards, you are just more and more in sync. Do you get that?
Yes, 100%. Yep. And in fact, yeah, I want to tell you about like how to connect with your deck too, but I want to tell you the story of how I got this is that so I took a class. I'm a hypnotherapist and I continue to take classes. And my teacher had a class called the Toolbox class, where she taught us how to use cards and like art and different things for different people. Sometimes people don't want hypnosis or they want something different. So she taught us how to use these in kind of like a hypnotherapy or like a therapy situation. Or if someone comes in and they don't know what they want their session to be on, we can pull a card and go from there, kind of what they see in the card. But I needed a deck of cards for this class. And I was really into fairies, and my husband called me his little fairy. And he was
Oh,
like, I'm never going to let you have oracle cards or tarot cards. Never, never. No, we can't have them. They're bad, all this stuff. And I said, it's not the cards, it's how the person would use them. Like you can use them for good or you can use them for evil purposes, but we want to use them for good because whatever we put out comes back to us. So we want to use them for good. And so he must have thought about that because he brought this home. He brought home the book Healing with the Fairies and the card deck too. So this is my actual card.
oh,
So,
I
and then to
love
what
that.
Skye said is the way that you pick out a deck is you go to what you're drawn to. So as
Yes.
soon as I saw this and it was fairies, I fell in love with this deck. And then when you get your deck, I like to bring it to my heart and I just close my eyes and I just envision, the white light coming in through my crown chakra and out my heart and into the cards. And then I like to open the box up and I like to look at each card, like really kind of get familiar with like each one and see which ones I like the best and just kind of have fun with them before I actually start working with them. It's like when you have a friend, you want to kind of get to know your friend, you want to get to know their
Yeah.
aspects, and then if you want to, you can. I don't always do it because nobody has that kind of time all the time, but you can take like a Palo Santo stick or an incense stick and light it, and you can take each card out, and as you look, put the smoke around each card, and that kind of like gets off any energy that you don't want and connects your heart with the card. And so then it's connected to your intuition, which even if you don't do all these steps, I feel like our intuition is so strong. That's what I feel like these decks is it's a way for us to
Yes.
express our intuition. I really believe that. So they're safe and super fun. And there's so many different ways to use them. Just like pulling a card a day and going with that, or asking a question and pulling a card. And a lot of the cards do have a guidebook. And if you just want a quick answer, you can pull your card and then you can read the answer in the guidebook. But I really like to look at the card and see what the picture is. This one says follow your dreams, and looking at all the detail, the color, what's going on in the picture. I like to say, where would I be if I were in that picture? What would I be thinking? What would I be doing? You can even like role play, pretend you're in the picture, and you get so many answers from doing it that way. Like so incredible and so much fun. And then you can practice with friends. All Most people would love to have like a card reading. So yeah.
Yeah. See, I find it like I see a story about myself in it. It helps me decipher parts of myself. But when I was younger and I was like 8 or 9 and I'd been quite sick and I kept being in the children's hospital and I was around beautiful souls who were very sick, like long-term stay. And I used to get the card. I see, I've done this since I was so young. I used to get the deck of cards, which essentially had all different animals on it because it was a children's ward,
Oh,
and I'd
yeah.
read cards for everyone in the
Oh,
unit.
Skye,
People
that's so
used to come to my bed. And so I've done it, but it's like, it's what you see, right? It's not that like there was like lions and elephants and all this sort of stuff. And I'm like, you're
great.
going this way and you're going to get the story. If you can free your mind, if you have a vivid imagination, maybe it's just all the different realms of life that you could experience. And these cards help you, I think, but I think it's much easier when you're called to a certain deck to decipher, but it really brings it home to that you can use anything. Like you can
Yes.
use like kids cards in a, you know, in a hospital and do something like that. But yeah, it makes me think. And I used to do tarot readings for my sister's friends. It's always, and they're always like, you're so right, you've helped me so much. And I think we have this part of ourselves, right? It's
I
just,
think so.
I found a really good part for it to come back in was when I, you know, I went raw, really high raw, and I've done lots of juices, and I got my movement, and I got my life. And then once I got to that point where that was all filled, I could bring the cards back in. I didn't want the cards to come in and ever feel like they controlled me. I wanted to
Yes.
have my life. And then all of a sudden, when I'd filled all my cups, I'm like, well, there's got to be another cup to fill. And that's when I didn't want, I feel like in my past when I was going through darkness, I could really rely on them to determine what was going to happen. Whereas now it helps me decipher myself. So I love that.
Yes, it can help you sometimes to find your shadow side too, because when
Yeah.
we're trying really hard, eating our really healthy diet, we're getting our nature in, our exercise, sometimes those thoughts that come in, we don't want to look at, and I just call them the shadow side. So the cards can really help with those too, because they're usually like a really gentle way to remind us of what's going on, maybe some things that we don't want to look at. So if you ever pull a card and you're like right away, this is nothing to do with me, I don't like this card, it's ugly, take a second look at it and just
I
open your
like
heart
that.
and ask, yeah, and ask what it's speaking to you, because sometimes they come in with things that we're not really attracted to, and but if we open our hearts, then we have a deeper understanding of what the card means and what how that applies to our life. So always just keep an open mind, and that's why only work with the decks that you resonate with, that feel really good to you energetically, that feel good. um,
Yeah.
and I'm kind of that way. I love the oracle, and I think it's because it's just like pictures. It's not set. I have worked with the tarot, and I'm okay with that, but I don't do it on a daily basis. I'm much,
Yeah.
and I don't really work with the cards a whole lot, just sometimes doing the readings on TikTok or Instagram just for like a daily uplift for people. I want to be the uplifting, give a positive message. Or in my practice, we can get a little deeper, with shadow side too. But yeah.
Actually, now you speak about that, when I think of tarot, I think of shadow work. I feel like that's just for me, right? Is anytime I've done it, it's things that think like Wheel of Fortune, all things. Whereas I can see positive all day and all night in the oracle cards. But I
Mhm.
will say the Medicine Heart one is probably the first deck that I have worked on. Like a lot of the time I will pull cards to read, and that's why I love the fairy deck. And I got this white
Mhm.
oracle, which will be a lot like that. I haven't used it yet, but I can tell that there'll be things I can pull and just sit with. Whereas this,
Yes.
I would pull just one
Yes.
card and read everything. There's pages you can read in this one, and
Yes.
it would be related to something that I really should dig into. And
Hmm.
so I guess, yeah, what I'm getting at here is that when I think of, and it's not that it's darkness, but it makes you, it's not to me as dark as I was seeing at times the tarot, whereas
Hmm.
this it makes you face parts of yourself, basically. Whereas a lot
Yes,
of the
yes.
other ones, you can just decipher your emotions, where you're at, whether that's negative or positive. It's like a little story on the card, right? You can see the story. Whereas some
Mhm.
of them you get to dive a little deeper and sit with.
Yes. Yes, this one, the Sacred Rebels Oracle, is that way too. So you pull a card and then you can read about it. And I like to look at the card and see how it's speaking to me first and see
Yeah.
what I'm getting out of the card first. And these go shadow side too, but not in a scary way, because she makes it to where even the shadow side is so helpful for us. Like, it's not scary. But then you read and then you just get more information that way. So I like to really look at the illustrations. I'll have to show you guys one of these cards. So
Yes.
they're so just gorgeous and very different, but I love them. Like, for instance, let's see. I love this focus in the light, focus on the light.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
Beautiful.
I can see so many layers in that card.
Yes, absolutely. And so I would just say, when you look at this card, how does it make you feel? What do you think of when you see it?
Are you asking me? Do you want to know what
Yeah,
I see?
sure. Yeah.
I see light. So out of all
Mhm.
of that picture, I see different layers. I don't necessarily see that person as myself. I think I see myself more as the light,
Uh-huh.
but behind the light is different layers of me. So maybe it's like Mother Earth is the front lady, and then I'm the light, and then behind all those layers where you've got the sunflower and you've got the sky and you've got some redness there, they're all the different things that make me the light.
I
That's what
love
I see.
that. Yes, I love that. You're
Yeah.
definitely
I,
right. Absolutely.
that's the sort of thing. That's how I read cards a lot of the time.
Mhm.
But I will pull this. I'll pull this comment on. I think people engage with tarot cards because it makes them feel spiritual.
Mhm.
I feel like I am spiritual, but it
Mhm.
helps me unlock and understand, because I think what you have to understand is, and when I think of people, spiritual talkers, like someone like Bashar. I love Bashar. And I
Mhm.
think of how we can't understand the higher realms because of our density. Like, we just can't understand. If you were confronted with like a light being of some type, you probably wouldn't even perceive it because the energetics are so high. We can't have that
Yeah.
frequency. That's how I see the universe and different realms and consciousness, right? And so
Mhm.
because of that is when we feel something, we interpret it through such a narrow perception. This is all
Mhm.
my interpretation, guys. Okay. You
Mhm.
could call it narrow minded, but we're very dense, right? And so um, when we say it makes us feel spiritual, I think we are spiritual, but it helps me decode what, like, a ton of emotions are always going on. And if you can't understand that, it'd be like saying a tadpole. I can talk to a tadpole, but a tadpole will never understand me because my frequency is higher. Does that make sense? My
Yes.
reality. So it can understand probably communication from other tadpoles and mama frog or whatever. But and this is just like the realities we live in, where it's like, that's what I foresee.
Yeah, and
Um,
I feel like it does help you to feel spiritual in the sense that a lot of times you sit down to do it, you focus, you have a focus where our brains are going all over with the day-to-day, sometimes with our families, how to get by, whatever the things that we're doing, and we may not feel very spiritual, but when we sit and hold a deck and we ask a question, then we're tuning into the divine and tuning into our intuition, and so we do probably feel more spiritual sometimes when we have the focus of a card in our hand. So I could
100%.
yeah.
100%. So I see hope and submission to a higher divine power. I love that. I think
Love
I feel
that.
like when I first healed, and it's like my part of my awakening. I feel like started to awaken years ago, but when I really got on the raw foods and I was alone and I was
Mhm.
outdoors a lot and I could see God, universe, nature, a higher power source everywhere, everywhere, right? Including in me, is it was much easier, I guess, to heal alone. But the conversation I consistently had wasn't to something separate from me. It was just a higher version or a different version in consciousness or spirit than me that was pulling me in different ways. And I found
Mhm.
the more I saw light and nature and raw food, the more I moved to like a higher frequency and could communicate with like my higher self. But I feel like I needed time away from, I really needed a long time away from physical matter. Like, I
Mhm.
feel like many of us are born into uh, consumerism, like a lot of consumption. And a huge part of why I feel like I got so far ahead was because, I couldn't concentrate on things from the FND. I couldn't read a lot. I'd been homeless. I wasn't around family. I was just in nature and just ate the freshest food, and it allowed
Mhm.
me to strip back. So when you add things back in, you choose to add, like, you start buying clothes again, or you start dyeing your hair again, or you start doing this, you have like this new appreciation, like this deep, like I had to go on that, and that's like part of my journey, right? And we're all on different journeys. Like a huge part of that was to find me and have this new appreciation for myself.
I love that so much. And isn't it like when you're in nature and you're on raw foods, you don't even really need the carbs. Like you can use the card,
True.
and we don't want to get to a place where we like need anything really except for like the food because we need food to live. But it's so great when we're raw and then just the truth, we just know. Like there's just this knowing,
Yeah.
this clear, and there's this like you can see the people are always saying they're on the right or they're the left. My husband's like very much like he's on the left, he's on the right. And then but I'm here like, but we're all people. We all want the same thing. Like it's not true
Yes.
the right or the left. That's a delusion. But anyway, you see through things, you just you know. And and then when you use the cards, it's a whole different thing because you're getting the divine wisdom coming through from it's your intuition, but you made a point of saying that you were connected to everything, like you're part of the divine, we're all connected in, and you were actually seeing that connection as you were healing, having the raw foods, being in nature.
Yeah, I'm wondering as well if a lot of people, because went through juicing as well, but juicing, my mind was more intact. There was nothing. There's no words to experience what like. I feel like when I dissociated back in 2017, it was this start of like an awakening. But once I put the raw foods in, I knew what to do. That was the
Yeah.
problem. And I think that's what happens with Dark Night of the Soul, right? Is the fabric of reality was ripped away when I'd been in bed for 15 years. I was 37 kilograms. I'd only had medication. You rip the fabric of reality away from that person. They don't know what they're doing. And then that's where I think psychiatric disease is diagnosed, right? But you get somebody who's full of raw food, has meditated, hasn't used a lot of earthly density, doesn't use medications and doesn't
Yeah.
drink or anything. And I think they would find their dark night of the soul or their transition much easier. So when I finally got those things inside of me, I actually think it was more powerful because I know the dark. Like, I think if
Yes.
you've walked that much of the dark, when the light comes in, the jolt forward is so high. You're like, holy crap. Like, there's no words to describe suffering in that much pain and that much loss. And then all of a sudden, you don't even feel like you're in loss because I call it plugging light packages into your body, and you just connect to like what you were meant to connect to. And then, as I said, as I've gone along, I'm indoors much more now. I work on a computer much more now. But I know the universe is always there. And I have to push and pull how much. Like, I get up in the mornings, I'm outdoors, my free time is outdoors. I try use as little as possible, not because it's bad, but I can't master the matter. Like as
Mm-hmm.
humans, I think the more we step away and become alchemists, not with nature, you have to be a true master to not get lost in it, because you don't want to become, well, dark and light, right? But
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we
Mm-hmm.
can sit, like yin and yang. You got the
Right.
white and the black, and the black's got the white dot, and the black's got the white dot, and you can kind of move in. But if
Yeah.
I went too far, I feel like I'm just very mindful that like everything away from the light is me being an alchemist, really.
Wow. So amazing. Oh my gosh. And what I find so incredible, like not enough people know this, how sick you are, and what healed you were the raw foods. Like the raw living, full of life, full of healing frequencies. That's what healed you. And in society, we're so like trying to be driven away from the truth, like the true foods. Like raw is true. It's the truth. And it's
Yeah.
so healing and amazing. Do you
And I
ever
think a lot of it. So
Yeah,
go
I'll
on.
ask you later. Go ahead, I'll ask you after you're finished.
Oh no, you go.
Oh, I was just curious if you ever did any fasting or if you do fasting. If you do.
Okay. So when I got to this lifestyle, I feel like I'd been starved most of my life, starved of life force, starved of knowing myself, starved to try and be skinny, starving when I put the food in because it wouldn't absorb. And all of a sudden, I could put these packets of light in, a cucumber or celery or an apple, and I could feel the jolt, like the energetics of it. And I wasn't starving for the first time in my life,
Oh, wow.
in truth. So I didn't even have to eat a lot. I just wasn't starving anymore. And it was teaching me how to love myself as well.
Hmm.
So as I put it in, I was like, you can put goodness in and you can feel the effects and you don't have to starve anymore. That was a huge lesson that was going
Yeah.
on. And as I did it, I'm like, I love this. I love you. I feel good. It was teaching me. The food was teaching me. And the more I was out in nature, I was filling up even more.
Ah,
And that was a huge thing I needed to learn. When I fasted, I have had problems and I have never really felt called. Do you mean like fasting for weeks and days at a time?
or just maybe not that long. I just was curious if you ever
Yeah, I have
fast.
fasted and it felt like suffering, and I have
Mm.
had to teach and I ended up with pot symptoms again. And the whole
Oh,
reason I
yeah.
went on was to not feel that anymore.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that's where I stand on that. It doesn't feel right, because the other thing I've said in one of my videos is I've been like incapacitated for years, like where you just lay there and you've got no energy and you can't get up. So I
Yeah.
don't want to do an extended fast because I never want to feel that again. And that's just
Right.
part of my journey. It doesn't mean I never will.
Yeah.
It just it's about learning from the food and loving the food. And I believe that we probably were at a state once where we could learn just from nature. But I think the reality most people live in is so dense. We need
Hmm.
the energetics of food a lot of the time, even a bit of juice or something very simple, just because we can get lost. That's
Hmm.
my thought.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah. And we're getting a lot of solar flares lately. Have you noticed any connection to your energy with this with the solar flares since you're so incredibly sensitive?
so I have noticed that I noticed more about the end of the Leo moon that we just had. I feel
Mhm.
like I've been through a pretty tumultuous time. I'm not sure, was there a Lion's Gate around August again?
Yes. Yes.
Yes, I
Yes.
feel like everything kind of got really rocky and fiery and a bit unstable and just gripping. My grip now in the reality I live in is much better, right? But I have
Mhm.
had continual things, just whether it was problems with the hormones, bioidentical hormones, I couldn't get the brand I wanted, then from having the cancer scare, then from like all this stuff, and then from getting old symptoms come on. It kind of has stopped when the Leo, and I'm a Leo, so Lionsgate and then the Leo moon, it kind of
Mhm.
stopped. Uh, I haven't noticed the flares as much, but that period of time, what's that, like 5 months, that's something I did notice.
Yeah.
What about you?
Wow. Yeah, I have been, we're working on our raw vegan bundles, and that's what I've been working so hard on. And since the flares have been happening, I have had like this surge of energy where I basically ate fruit all day yesterday, and I finally did sleep last night, but my sleep was off with the full moon. But I've just been full of like all this energy, like really like
Okay.
energetic, like go for it, getting a lot of things accomplished in one day, a lot.
Okay, I felt that. I felt that.
Uh-huh.
That I have felt. Yes, I have felt that for, what did I put that down to? I didn't realize that. Yeah, I have been, well, like I had a client come out and we were like nonstop,
Mhm.
and then I was like having
Yeah.
a little sleep, and I noticed I had a lot of energy. It was like a continual cycle. That's been going on for like 10 days, maybe up to 2 weeks, but I didn't, yeah, okay. Yes, I
Yeah.
have. I just wasn't aware of it.
I was going to say, I think Skye's situation is
Oh,
different.
sorry, I pulled that down.
Oh,
Yes, I didn't know what happened to me could even be humanly possible, that someone could experience like what I went through. But I think everyone has some sort of magical experience when they find raw food. I know what I wanted to ask you. Do you
oh yeah.
find tarot cards different? Oh, we're both on the green juice.
Green juice. Yes. I need some grounding.
Yes, yes.
The grounding and
Okay,
calming.
did you find that doing light work and oracle work is different when you're raw, fully raw?
Yes. Oh my goodness. Yes. So much so, because raw, um, you just get intuitions. I get intuitions, or things just line up for me. I don't really have to work. Like, manifesting is not like hard work. Sometimes I basically will just think of an idea and then it manifests. The less I think about it, I think the quicker it happens.
Yes.
In fact, the less hung up. And then when things come up for me, um, when you were going through like the rough patch, I was going through a rough patch too. Some things happened for my son, and I just got worried and that kind of thing. And so, but I was able to kind of shift my thinking quicker on the raw food. And also, being raw helps me when I do anything like Pilates, any kind of exercise. I I have more energy, more stamina, and so I
Mm.
think that helps with switching at, how I'm feeling. And so when I go to work with the cards, yes, I feel like I get more answers, like more, it's not like more, it's just more of a depth to them, more of that divine. My answers aren't so yes or no. It's more like I'm picking up on frequencies, picking up on energies, um, greater, like more quality, I guess you would say. So, you know how in any question there's an answer, but there's always like the underlying root. It's easier for me to get to that. So when I do pull the card and I'm like sharing, it's more of a full bodied answer rather than just, yeah, you're gonna have company on Friday or something.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. I find when I'm like full of, well, I'm always full of raw food lately, well, for years now. But I
Yeah.
guess the more time I spend in nature and the lighter I eat, the more downloads I get. And if somebody told
Mhm.
me, I get these downloads, I'd be like, what the hell is a download? But when you're
Yeah.
raw, literally outside, you could call it an epiphany, I guess, but you're very aware. It's very concise, and it's information I feel like I'm supposed to convey. So a lot of the time, full of raw food, and you get so many more. You basically, whole life becomes it
Yes.
when you're on juice, I think.
Yes. Yes.
But like I'll get these very specific downloads, and then when I come in and do my talks and lives, I will be like, share it, and people are like, oh, that's really interesting, and I'm like, it's not. that's another thing I had to learn, is like you grow up thinking that all the knowledge is in books, like that, you know, you need to study, you need to read, and they're just other people's life stories. We don't need to, learn that per se. You can learn lessons from other people. I just don't think we're supposed to recite and become other people. And I feel
Right.
like that was what I was doing most of my life. And then once I was cut off from that, it was just so interesting to know that the body and self can get awareness and knowledge from plants and from nature and inner
Mhm.
guidance from, and then that healed me. Like,
Yes.
you know, that I think is a huge lesson that will stay with me for a long time, that ability. And that's where the cards are, intuition. It's just
Yes.
deciphering it in a different way. It's almost like all the good you put in, or I choose to try and do as much good as I can. You know, you do the self-love, you do the movement, you do the raw food, you be of service. And so when you sit down, you're going to get a reflection of that. If you know, where I used to be so sick, I wasn't moving, just watching, movies all day, full of medication and surgeries, like really dense, is all that the cards can show me is a reflection of that. That was another thing. So
Right.
many lessons, right? So many
Yes,
lessons along
right,
the way.
right. Yeah, like the higher your vibration when you're working with the
Yes.
cards, better, because you're going to get more divine answers, higher frequency answers, rather than just like 3D answers. I would say 3D. Like um,
Yes. I would
you
agree
know,
with that. I feel like you dance into 4 and 5D when you're on fresh food. And I believe everyone was doing this, like really high frequency. It's just the earth, Mother Earth, has got herself into a bit of density there.
mhm. Another really interesting, I cannot think of their names right now. But the husband has a podcast, and the wife, the husband has a YouTube channel. The wife and the husband used to do a podcast on iTunes. The wife does retreats. She called it dieting plants. She would try a certain plant for like a week or two and receive its messages. And I always wanted to do that.
Wow.
And I always forget about it until just now. But I think she's had rose. I feel like she's had basil, where she eats very limited foods other than this plant, and she gets the plant's messages. And I want to do that so bad. I forgot
I
about it.
love this. I
Yeah,
love
I just
this.
think that would be so interesting because we can get so many answers. Like if you're ever in nature, and the way that you would use an oracle deck, you can actually go up to a tree and like stand in the tree's energy, and you can talk to the tree, and you'll get the downloads. By downloads, I mean like ideas will start to come to you. You may see something, you might feel something, you might hear something, you might just know it, because we have these clair senses, which are like clairaudient, where we can hear a voice. It sounds like a voice inside of our heads. Um, it's not outside of us, it's inside of us, but we can hear that small voice. Sometimes we'll get pictures, which is clairvoyance. Sometimes we'll just know, and that's let's see, what is it? Claircognizance, where we just know. And then sometimes we'll feel things, clairsentience. And then there's another factor, another psychic factor, that is like we'll be able to smell. Maybe you have a thought of like your aunt and you actually smell her perfume. But so you can stand in front of the tree and ask questions. You can ask out loud or just to yourself, and be in that tree energy. And all the tree is just divine energy. Like if a tree dies, the energy goes back into the energy of the cosmos. But you can ask questions or talk to the tree, and you will receive thoughts, feelings, visions. You'll hear um, an amazing way to just tap in and raise your
I love
frequency or
all
get
that.
answers. Yeah, it sounds
I
so
love that.
woo-woo, but it's just so true.
Yeah. So I actually saw, that's making me think, because when you say all those things, someone might go, oh, that's what a crazy person would have going through their mind. And they actually
Yeah.
asked what is the difference? They did, I don't know where this was. Oh, I don't know. Some psychologist or something looked into what the difference is between people who start having these thoughts and being labeled as, psychiatric issue, or have clairvoyance, and it was
Yeah.
cultural. So people who start hearing and seeing things in certain cultures were nurtured, and usually there's generations of it, and it was
Yeah.
supported. And then in the more westernized somebody gets, it's a problem. So when you start having these, people on top of it already panic, and then it's kind of suppressed. And I found that really interesting
So
because you
interesting.
you do find, because I've been in psychiatric units, you do find, I mean, I found people would just come up and say things, and you're like, how would you know that? So it's like, because your reality is fractured, right? So you're seeing something others don't. So
Right.
it's just,
Yes.
and then they say, I remember a psychiatrist saying to me, this is before I was ever in a psychiatric unit, he said, somebody like you would be called a shaman, where you sit outside, the village, and people come to you for knowledge,
Hmm.
like you're constantly on a download. Isn't this what I'm
Right.
doing now? Sitting here by myself talking to people?
Yeah. Right.
Uh, and that's another thing that Helen's saying. I've used a tree for healing. I do this. I drink my matcha, sitting with my back against the tree 4 times a week. It really did heal my mental health in union. I love that, because I found, in fact, this is reminding me of things, is the power of like cacao and matcha, and
Yes.
it like helps you tap in or fracture into things where you need to
Yes.
mend. And it's reminding me of actually when I was in a psychiatric hospital, and the same time every day. I know this sounds strange, but it helped me process things. I would take it because I was on so much medication, and they took it all off me very, very quickly, right? So I'd take a cigarette and a coffee and sit in nature the same time every day. And it seemed to help me think through, because so much was flooding through. I was
Yes.
able to sit in that space. Do I recommend it? No, there's much better ways, but I think it's really it's everything can be used as medicine if it's used correctly, right? That I
Right.
was obviously crutching at the same time, but it's interesting. Same time every day, I would sit there, and because so much was just I couldn't process it, that it would just streamline it, and I could go, well, that happened, and so now it's cacao and matcha, and those I feel like you tap into spirit more than like your own head.
Oh my
So
gosh, yes, yes. And Helen, I love that you do that. I think that's amazing. Sitting with the tree with matcha. I'll have to try that. I haven't actually I can't, Skye, can you believe that I have not sat in nature with cacao or matcha yet? I think maybe cacao, but I can't believe I haven't done that. That's such a great
well, we
idea.
take on the properties. So I think it's some psychiatrists, psilocybin that's in mushrooms.
Right.
Okay, so they're saying that when people have a little bit of the mushroom, what they happen when they do brain scans, like PET scans and stuff, what they see is the top part of their consciousness stops. It just goes completely quiet. And that part, we can say that like the prefrontal cortex, but everywhere, it's like, just say when you've got post-traumatic stress, you've got a lightning storm, right? There's a lightning
Mhm.
storm. So that stops. And then what they see is new connections, which were never there before in the brain, start lighting up. Okay. Now,
Wow.
if you do it once, that can stay for a couple months. But if you do a few of these, it can build up over time and
Amazing.
stay forever. But on top of that,
Wow.
that top part can quiet, and a new area of the brain lights up. And it makes me think how mushrooms designed the Japanese railway system. Did you know this?
I think I've heard something about it, but
Like
tell
it
us
knows the
again.
quickest route. So a type of mushroom or fungus, they put all the little stations down, and they wanted to design the quickest route, and engineers got their ideas, but the mushroom or the fungus takes the path of least resistance and the quickest. So it mapped out, and essentially that's what it's doing in the brain. And
Wow.
so,
That's amazing.
I think it's incredible what plants can
Well,
do
and
for us.
cacao does that to our brain too. It actually heals parts of it. Did I send you something about that? Do you remember? It,
No.
okay, yeah, cacao does that too. It actually goes in and it can shift parts of your brain and open them up. And I feel that since I started uh, meditating, I haven't done it now, but when I was working with cacao and I wrote my book, I had cacao every day, every morning, and I really felt like awake, not just from the caffeine, but it opens your heart, it
Yeah.
stimulates your brain, and it's different than caffeine. It reacts in a totally different way than caffeine. And it is such a nurturing, just such a nurturing plant. And working with, I felt like I was working with Mama Cacao energy. I'll have to find this for you guys and I'll read it to you next time. But it changes the brain in these certain ways and it opens your heart. I've already said that, but it's so amazing that it shifted me from whoever I was to who I am now. And I'm so much more productive. Just my heart is where maybe I would hold back and not want to open my heart. I just open my heart. It releases, it lets go of fear. Like it helps you to not feel fear. And that was huge for me because I used to be fearful. And even though I was raw, like that did help a lot. Being raw did help a lot. But the cacao just like kicked me to another level. It was so amazing.
I
It's
love that.
incredible.
But maybe it's like when a new food is presented, and especially when it's raw, it's going to be much more receptive. Is we ask it, "What's the lesson here?" Because essentially, isn't that what shamans do
Yes.
in the Amazon? Is you may come to them and they're essentially doing their oracle readings on
Yeah.
you and asking Mother Nature. And the more grounded they are, like they literally live in the Amazon with no shoes on, sleep on the earth. They're
Right.
constantly connected, and these
Yeah.
plants are talking and saying, yes, this person needs me, or no, they don't need me, or yes, they need my leaves. And essentially we can do that just in modern world. Like that's what I do when I go to the farmers market, and that's what I teach when I coach. I'm like, go into a shop and you might be like, I need bananas, I need bananas. You walk in and you're like, oh, I don't know, I feel a bit sick thinking of bananas again. You're like, but the beetroot and basil, it's vibing.
Yes.
It's talking to you. It has lessons for
Yes.
you to learn.
That's what I tell people when they want to buy a crystal. Because when I go into a crystal
Ah,
shop, I feel like I can hear them singing on some level. I'm like, I hear them singing. And
ah.
whenever you're attracted to something, it's something that will be good for you or something that you would need, like a crystal, something like crystal
Or
or,
a
a
lesson.
fruit. Uh-huh.
If we're
Yes, or
attracted
a
to
lesson
something
for
and we're
you.
like, I got that wrong, I shouldn't have done that, I'm bad. I don't
Yes.
see that. I'm like, that was a lesson. And the lessons for me seem more spiritual and more intense and more in alignment when I eat raw foods. I feel like when I was in the darkness and I would go through lessons, they were dark. They were like
Yeah.
dark. So that to me is like very important that I keep my light shining.
Yes. Yes, and Helen says she has, her cocoa at night, her cacao at night. I'm
Yes.
curious if she has dreams, like, what if her
I was
dream
about
life.
to bring up the dream aspect of this because I was going to say it's actually not as bad now, but I went through a stage where the dreams were literally like stepping into some sort of reality and having a life. This was only for a period at the start of this year. Is when I
Wow.
used to have it, I could just sleep on it and just not be so affected. But at the start of this year, I'd crave it at night and I would go into this dream world and I'd be like, holy moly, like I
Wow.
forgot to ask you about this. It's I sometimes I'm like, oh, I won't do that tonight. I feel like having a. It's like you wake up and you're like, I was in Egypt and I was like in the
Yes.
pyramids and like full on,
Yeah,
like
it really
I
does
was
work
there.
on our brains, and when we're sleeping, it just, opens up these different centers. That's why we call it plant medicine, because it is medicine.
Yeah.
That's so fun.
So, do you have any thoughts for what we'll do next week? So Helen saying yes, she has powerful dreams with a
Oh,
massive
wow.
message.
Yeah, with a massive message. Yeah, that's great. I mean, we could talk about dreams next week if you want. If you guys
Ooh,
want
I
to
like that.
do
I
that.
like that.
And we'll
I
talk about
definitely like.
dreams and we'll talk about how to remember dreams if you're not remembering them, different tricks that you can use to help you remember your dreams and kind of what they mean, the symbology. I don't know everything there is to know, but I kind of know how it relates to our subconscious. So, yeah, that would be fun.
Yay! Okay, guys, thank you. I'm actually going to move over to my kitchen now and do my weekly Friday, it's Friday here, talk
Oh,
and do a recipe. Anybody who wants to
fun.
join. Yeah, but thanks,
Yay.
Marabella. Oh, and Marabella and I are going to do like a streaming marathon. We're going to go on
Yes.
and just stream as long as we can.
Yeah,
Soon.
that's gonna be so much fun. I'm looking forward to that. I have to get everything done for the bundle first, but
Yes.
after all that, I'm so happy to do it. I'm excited, super excited.
Yeah. All right, guys. Bye. See you next time.
Bye. See you next time.